I'm Cori Ellison, dramaturg, and I'm back with another episode of Conversations in Quarantine, presented by the Santa Fe Opera. And my very special guest today is David Leigh, bass, who is cast as King Marke in the 2020 season Santa Fe Opera premiere of Tristan und Isolde. And full disclosure on this one, David and I are kind of like brother and sister, and we're actually 5 blocks away from each other right now on the Upper West Side of New York, but we haven't actually laid eyes on each other in 3D since March 6th, the day before he left for Dallas, Texas to do a gig. So David, over to you now, and tell us where you were and what you were doing when this whole pandemic sort of exploded.
So the pandemic kind of exploded in slow motion. It was like shards sort of coming at all of us, I think, at different moments. I was in Dallas, Texas, as you said, and I was singing. So I was singing the Frate in Don Carlo. So I was singing, the smallest of the 3 bass roles in Don Carlo, and I was also supposed to cover Filippo, the biggest of them. But actually, because of the pandemic, I was the Grand Inquisitor was Andrea Silvestrelli, who is Italian, and he was coming in from there. So actually, because he got quarantined by the pandemic, so I sort of got hit by it in 2 waves. So I learned the Grand Inquisitor in like 2 days, and then about 4 days later, after 4 days in Dallas of like rehearsing all 3, ended up coming home because the whole production was canceled.
Yeah, rehearsing and learning 3 bass roles in Don Carlo and getting to perform none. So,
well, and they all talk to each other, so I was very confused.
It must have been very confusing, but hey, you've got them in your rep now. So thing is, although that's a very colorful story, you're not alone in this profession. This sort of thing happened to a lot of artists, a lot of people we've talked to in this series already. And so I would like to ask you, what does your life currently look like? What's a day in the life of David Leigh? Have you sort of set a routine, or are you kind of playing it by ear? What's going on?
It's some of both. Honestly, I think some of like artist life is kind of always a little bit of both. I think for me, it's this weird moment that all of this hit at because so about 2 years ago or so, Alexander Neef, who's the general director of Santa Fe Opera, called me and he offered me 2 big Wagner roles that I've been working on every single day for the last 2 years. And this was the first of them, and the other one was in Toronto that's right afterwards. So I've been working pretty diligently on that for this whole time, and I haven't really wanted to stop with all of this stuff. So in some ways, it's this amazing like opera boot camp where I get to, I'm like repping texts. I woke up in the middle of the night last night and was like repping text from Tristan. It was just like stuck in my head. I think there's a lot of that, and I've been working on other roles that are 2-3 years down the line, like especially the big Wagner stuff like this that takes a while to work in. And then a little bit of just catching up with the shards of everyone's life. I mean, I think one of the consequences of, as you say, almost everyone had this simultaneous crisis. And it's very interesting because not many personal life crises happen for everyone in your life at the same time. So it's been very interesting to see this simultaneity within the community, this communion of total isolation, where everyone is suddenly going through the same thing at once, but all on their own.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's a strange kind of isolation because though many of us are alone or in a small family group or couple or something like that, we're constantly on the electronic media. There's been reunions of everybody and everything, and classes and, online galas and this and that. But through all this, have you set a routine for practicing or learning stuff? I mean, I know that you've been doing coachings and lessons online too, haven't you?
Yeah, so coachings are hard because of the simultaneity of playing the piano, and I haven't really wanted to try to work that out, but my coach and I are in very good touch, and we we text all day about like, oh, do you think this word could mean that? And I've been doing a lot of lessons. The truth is also like my work ethic, there's a novelist named Richard Price who I heard speak who said that he likes to hang out and do research, and like he has the fun for him is in like hanging out with people, and like writing is the price he pays to hang out with people. I feel a little bit that with like, I love making weird sounds in my apartment. I love practicing. Like I would do that if I did not get paid. Like performing is the price I get paid, is the price I pay in order to like make the weird sounds in my apartment. So that's still going on.
All right. So that hasn't changed, but New York has altered a lot around us, hasn't it? Yeah. What's your perception of that been? I mean, I know that you've been getting out to run anyway in the park.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's you see people picnicking, or you're on a path and you see a group of people. It feels like there are some people who are madly vigilant, and there are some people who are totally oblivious to any of it. So it's this very strange thing where you walk outside and every event is high stress, and at the same time, it feels like there are obstacles everywhere because there are quite a few people who are still not really social distancing. So I pretty much just go out to run now.
Strangely enough, yeah, it really is true. Yeah, because there's this everybody out there in masks and all sorts of protective gear, gloves and face shields and scarves, and that's most people. And most people are, in New York, we've kind of developed this reflex of, when you see somebody coming, you automatically make 6 feet between you and them. I mean, it's really become a reflex, hasn't it?
It's very strange. It's funny. I saw my mom. I was running in the park, and I saw my mother, who lives just a few blocks away from me. I saw her walking, and just in front of me, and I said her name, and her instinct when she heard her own name was to back up. She almost fell into some water. Her instinct was to back up so harshly, because when someone's saying anything to you, right now, I think the instinct is just to get away. I think it's a very strange kind of moment for the city.
It is particularly because, and also because this city is so defined by not only the population density, the very density of it, but the cultural activities and the nightlife and the restaurants. And when that's all shut down, it's like the oxygen has been sucked out of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, it's so strange.
What have you been, is there anything that you don't usually get to do that you've all of a sudden found time to do? I mean, besides staying home, because you're almost never home, you're on the road all the time.
Yeah, I mean, being in my apartment is a strange experience, Cori. It's like, honestly, like that is a big thing. Like actually just being home. I haven't been home this long for a few years. I mean, it's really been quite something. And then I think, I've had real time to like read. There's a lot of stuff that like primary source materials for stuff for contracts 2, 3, 4 years out that I've been able to read that I wouldn't have expected, or like, or a lot of like second, there's all actually these Wagner debuts that are sort of coming up in a row. It's been like amazing. I had a gigantic reading list, and I made it through a lot of my reading list already. I made it through this Gorbachev biography that I really wanted to, that I've been wanting to read forever. So there's like a lot of there's a lot of that sort of stuff. I've been cooking more elaborately. I got an ice cream maker, so I've been making ice cream.
Oh, don't torture me. The minute is over, right?
Believe me, I had the thought of, could I drop this at Cori's door? I literally had
and you could. You really could.
I could, but I'm worried that it would have, anyway, the virus is stressing me out. But yeah, so there's a lot of that sort of stuff, like these long-term kind of projects. And I think also just thinking about, I think there's a way in which artists, it's funny when I talk to singer friends, we get in this mode of like, okay, I have this, and then I have this, and I have this, and actually having the space to sort of map out. I've seen friends. I saw a friend post on social media almost a eulogy for his career. It was so interesting, like in this very depressing way, but almost in this way of like really taking stock of like, I've accomplished this much, and I've sung this role that I sang, that he posted a recording. this is this role I sang, and like it was this life accomplishment for me to get there. And there is a lot of that sort of thought that I think has been going on across the board in the community right now.
Yes, there really, really has a big range of thoughts and feelings in our industry as well as in the larger world. Um, what have you found to be the biggest challenge of this time for you?
I think not being able, to me, opera is inherently a totally live medium. And I understand, I think the streams and the digital content it's amazing. I mean, here we are engaging in, and I think it is genuinely amazing. But the thing about opera that I think that draws me to it is the unfiltered, unvarnished, absolute purity of the medium, that there's nothing that compromises that. And I really miss that. The fact that I have not had a coaching, the fact that I've not like an in-person coaching, the fact that I've not, you know, sung an ensemble with someone else in months. I mean, really, and the fact of not being able to hear other live voices other than my own, that, you know, singing. I mean, it's just like going to a Santa Fe, you just walk around and like the campus is open air. So you walk around that campus and you're constantly hearing the greatest voices in the world, just like resounding over, you know, through this like mountain space. And it's this, you just don't, my apartment doesn't have that. No matter how many Franny recordings I play, like my apartment doesn't have that. It's not live. And I miss that. Oh my God, I miss that so much. It's impossible to describe how much I miss that.
We all miss the live human voice in its full glory, and hopefully we'll be back to that again before too terribly long. But during this time, you know, a lot of people are trying to come up with creative solutions. A lot of us have been opining that things aren't going to be exactly the same after the opening up again. What do you see as the role of an artist in this kind of a situation?
I think there's this very challenging, there's this line that is hard to straddle where I think, actually my sister is a playwright, and she tweeted this thing a few months ago that it's important for artists to create art during this time, but it's also important for artists in this time to not create bad art. And I think there's this thing that I'm struggling with personally, where I'm like, God, I just want to like, you know, take a video of myself singing whatever it is that I want to, you know, because I just want to like make something. And I think at the same time, there's really thoughtful art to be created. And I think it's our role primarily to make sure that the art that we're creating is not just a carbon copy of whatever I would do for you if you were in a theater with me, but is something that is relevant to this moment. And I'm still struggling with what that is exactly, to be honest with you. But I've seen it a few times, and I've been really moved by it. I actually thought the Met Gala was beautiful the other day. I did not, honestly, like, I was not sure how I would feel about that. I was like, okay, a bunch of people on their iPhone cameras, I'm not, and then I was really deeply moved by it, and I thought there was some really good singing on it. And I was especially into the fact that it was live.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like pre-recorded content out there, and I thought, you know, in some ways I'm like, what do I need live performance for? You know, I've got the Schulte ring, but like, no, actually, like hearing something like even if it's on an iPhone recording, it's so I think we're all trying to figure out what our versions of that are, and I think it's ephemeral too, where it's like you have an idea and it works for a second and then it gets stale, and then there's a responsibility to come up with the new way of engaging with the community. I also think stuff like this, for what it's worth, I think the human side of it, I actually think it's amazing. And I think like if people understood what an artist's life were like, I actually think there would be a lot more people interested in opera if they understood not just the lifestyle, but like the whole, you know, if they understood how many years go into making this unbelievable art. I think people would be really would be amazed by that, if, you know, as a gateway drug into the medium itself.
Well, thank you so much for so neatly encapsulating really exactly what we're trying to do here with this Conversations in Quarantine series, is offer a window into artists' lives, which are so diverse, yet there are so many contact points between everybody's life and an artist's life too. So thank you for sharing that with us today. Last question, since I know firsthand your prowess as a cook. What's for dinner tonight?
It's funny you should say that. So I got my grocery delivery. So I love like going to the grocery store and picking out
Oh, yeah.
my meat, and I missed that so much. I was doing it for a while, and then finally I had a friend just tell me, what are you doing? So I got my grocery delivery. All I was able to get was about 1 million pounds of chicken. So all I'm eating, so I am making. I figured I would try to make like a souped up coq au vin kind of thing tonight, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure.
Well, I am so looking forward to the day when I can see you in 3D and taste your cooking again. And I really hope it's not too far off. But until then, we'll keep in good touch.
Too.
And thank you so much for being with us today.
So good to see you, Cori. I can't wait to see you this summer.
Great to see you.